Welcome to today's discussion, Creating a Thriving Community, sponsored by the Ballston Business Improvement District on WTOP and WTOP.com. I'm your host, Jason Fornicola, and my guest today is Frank Williams, CEO of Evolent Health. Frank, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Start by telling me why you decided to choose Ballston as the headquarters for your company.
Yeah, when we launched Evolent 4 years ago, we were really trying to build a very dynamic company and one that would attract the best talent in the United States and trying to transform the healthcare landscape. And when we thought about Ballston, fabulous real estate. So if you think about just the innovative buildings, places that are quite collaborative in terms of the space and the culture we would build. Convenient live-work locations, so ability for people to live very close to work, which is very attractive to a number of professionals that we work with. On the metro line, so people could live in the region and easily get there. And then if you just look at the growth, even since we've been there, just in new businesses, other colleagues moving in, an innovative culture, and then retail, restaurants, fabulous happy hour locations. It's been a really attractive place and enabled us to hire over 800 people in the last 4 years, which is pretty impressive if you think about being able to get that type of talent into the company.
So they must like working there then if you've been able to hire on so many people, 800 in the last 4 years. When you get feedback from your employees, what do they say about their surroundings?
Well, I think, as I said, if you just look in our building alone, we have some of the top companies in the region. So a lot of interaction that's quite relevant for the work we do on a day-to-day basis. And then restaurant-wise, events, we do firm-wide meetings, we host customers, and you've got everything there from great hotels, restaurants, again, convenient spaces for meetings. And I notice with a young employee base that happy hours are very popular as well, which there are many in the area. But it's just a great place to work on so many different dimensions.
The healthcare industry is dynamic, it's competitive. What are the key drivers to your success as a company?
Well, I think one of the first things is understanding where the market's going. I mean, being in the Washington region with the government's impact on healthcare, I think we have a really good lens into where the industry's going, how health reform is going to impact providers in the community. So that's number one, is just understanding where the industry's going. And then we're a talent-based business. So if we're able to attract fabulous talent and one that is really built on core values, where we have a culture that celebrates and recognizes and really creates a meritocracy, so that, if you have someone who's at a different point in their career, a different part of the industry, but they see an opportunity to have a dramatic impact in what they're doing, in healthcare, it enables us to bring great people. And I think if you have great people, you can do amazing things.
When you look back at your path to where you are now, talk about some of the things that led you to this point.
Well, I think the first thing was just seeing, at least in our business, that healthcare was broken, and that there was an opportunity to bring really positive change in patient care and an opportunity with everything going on in the industry to make a real difference. And I think there's a desire across our employee base to have an impact on the world in a positive way. And I think starting with a bold vision and one that's transformative has enabled us to attract people who want to have that same impact. And then trying to build a company that executes well. It's easy to have a bold vision, but if you're actually not doing the right work on the day-to-day basis and satisfying your customers and ultimately innovating as you go along, you're not going to be successful. And I think we've really tried to have that in everything that we do at Evolent.
When you talk about a bold vision, can you talk about how perhaps the Ballston bid has a bold vision as well in making the community as good as it can be for the people who live there and the people who work there?
Well, I thought what was interesting, when we were looking for areas to locate, we visited a lot of different neighborhoods in the district and in Virginia. And the moment we stepped into Ballston, it just felt fresh. It felt innovative, it felt new, it felt cutting edge. And, when we first moved in, for instance, into our building, which was a new space, we were one of the first tenants. And there was a belief that others were going to see the same attractiveness to the environment, and that's absolutely happened. So as I mentioned, we've had great organizations move in. Next door, we have a few healthcare companies that we do business with, so it's already become a very dynamic business environment, so a lot of organizations coming in. And then I look at growth in retail, in hotels, in all of the things that make a difference to people's work-life balance and feeling like they're in a place that is easy to get to, is dynamic. And what we find with our employee base is a lot of people want to live close to where they work. And for the people, again, we attract 20s and 30s, they love the area on almost every dimension, both in terms of the housing choices, the things you can do on the weekend, but also the dynamic during the week, and feeling like there's a lot of great businesses there to choose from as well.
It sounds like you're referring to Ballston almost as a one-stop shop.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect way to describe it. And so many areas you see missing various components downtown that don't have close living choices, or places that have all sort of non-business things, but one building in an area. And there I find you've got multiple businesses, and as I said, almost everything that you would want from a business perspective. And then if you need to get into the district or anywhere in the region, you hop on the metro, very easy access in and out, and just a fabulous region for us. And we have a lot of people who are facing a tough choice to leave another community to move to the district. And every time we sort of walk them through the office, the local neighborhood, it sells incredibly well, and we've been able to attract great people as a result.
So it sounds like Ballston is convenient for Evolent as a business. It's convenient for you and your employees individually. What would you like to see out of Ballston in the future?
Well, I think like attracts like. The fact that we started out and it was a growing region and area, and you just watch what's happened in a short period of time, I'd like to see that development continue. The more businesses we have that locate there, the types of service companies that support business. When you see new retail opening up, there's been 7 or 8 great new restaurants that have opened up within a 4-block radius of the office. When that happens, more people want to be there, and you start to create a community where innovation, new ideas, relationships are built, and where you're attracting more and more people, to live there, to work there, and again, more new businesses on top of that. So, I'd like to see continued support. I think it's very business oriented. Every interaction we've had with the local community has been positive and supportive. We've done a lot in the community, and I think that's been very supported, and I'd love to see that continue, and I'd love to see it be the most dynamic region in the Washington area.
You've mentioned that you've hired 800 employees in the last 4 years. You're particularly interested in the younger demographic. Do you think that if you were located somewhere else, that you would be as successful as you are today?
No, I think location is critical, and it's one of the reasons that we chose Ballston. I think it makes a difference, and people want to live close to where they work. They want places that are on the metro line. They want to see amenities around the area, all the different things that we talked about. I think it's really important in job selection. So I think if we'd made a poor choice and picked a place that was hard to access, or again, didn't have new dynamic companies as a real part of the community, I think it would be difficult for us to recruit at the level that we have.
Frank, tell me more about Evolent Health.
Well, we were started with a pretty bold vision to change healthcare in the United States, and to do it in a very innovative way. So what we do is we work with provider organizations across the country, so large health systems. We're working with MedStar here locally, and really helping them put in place a much more dynamic care model, one where you have integrated care teams working with your physician, where there's a lot of ways to access health care that are unique and different, and where ultimately the quality of care is improving, and we're reducing costs, and we have a better system for patients in terms of engaging with their physicians. So we're building teams, technology to support that. We're working with some of the leading provider organizations in the country. And one of my reasons for getting into healthcare over 20 years ago was wanting to have a positive impact on society. And if you think how much healthcare impacts all of us, our families day to day, the fact that it hasn't worked well, and yet there's an opportunity to really innovate, we're trying to be on the forefront of that change. Today we were actually invited to the White House to provide some of our early perspective working in the field in 25 regions, to the president and to key policymakers. And it, is a testament to the work that we're doing, again, really trying to push positive change in the healthcare industry. And that's why we've been able to attract the people we have to Evolent.
This is obvious, I believe, but talk to me about the importance of innovating in healthcare and how that innovation is going to get us to the next level to make people live longer, be healthier, have better, more productive lives.
Well, innovation's critical. I mean, if you think about primary care today, the average physician sees 30 patients a day, and yet we know we have a very small portion of the patient population that's costing over 50% of the dollars in healthcare. They're people with chronic conditions, and yet the current system isn't designed to take care of those patients well. We need to engage them in their health. We need to meet them in their homes. We need to get them their medications. We need to actively involve them in their health care with their doctor. And so that's really what we're trying to do, is bring a new model of care, one where physicians are driving the change, not an insurance company from 2,000 miles away, but one where patients take charge of their health and ultimately hopefully tackle some of these real problems they're facing in terms of having to go to the emergency room, in terms of having all of these acute episodes, but really taking charge of their health. And that's really what the whole healthcare system needs to do.
What are some successes that you've realized as a company over the years?
Well, I think one of the things we're really proud about, and this is true at MedStar, we've been very effective at engaging people who've had healthcare difficulties historically in the health regimen that's been recommended by their doctor. So our engagement rates are 3 to 4 times what you'd see in normal markets. And then if you actually look at almost all the quality metrics, vast improvement, and in some cases 50% reduction in cost for that population, which again allows you to reinvest in much more proactive, integrated healthcare ideas where you have a nutritionist, a pharmacist, a mental health professional who's all engaged with your primary care physician around your health.
You mentioned that you've been in the industry for 20 years. How did you get your start, and talk to me about your path leading you to where you are today?
Yeah, well, I was coming out of graduate school. I was at Harvard Business School, and I decided that I wanted to find something that ultimately was going to have a positive impact on society. And I was looking at education and lots of different things. And a gentleman I'd worked with in my past life had become CEO of a large healthcare company nationally and asked me if I'd come in and try to run a business for him. And I learned a lot, how little I knew about healthcare at the time, but it was a great experience. And I really did like the fact that everything that we did, if you were executing well, was having a positive impact on patient care, on families, and I could go home feeling that I was making a difference. And that's how I got in, and haven't left, and don't plan to, hopefully, for another 20 years.
What's your favorite part of your job?
I love building extraordinary teams. And I love being a part of great cultures that are values-driven, where people really believe in what we're doing. They believe in the core values of the organization. We treat people well. We operate with very high performance standards. We take on big challenges and continually are resilient in trying to overcome them and ultimately deliver something that's really, really valuable for the organizations that we're working with. That's what I love doing, and that's what I've had an opportunity to do at Evolent.
What are some of those challenges that you face as a company, and how do you work to overcome them?
Well, I think one of the biggest ones for us, fortunately, has been growth. We've gone from a new company just 3.5 years ago to now having 800 employees working in 20 regions. We did over $100 million in revenue this last year, and that presents a lot of challenges as to how you scale the organization. Are you hiring the right people? Do you have the right infrastructure in place? We're constantly trying to see ahead. And then it's also really important that you innovate. I mean, it's easy to be innovative when you start out, but do you begin to be a little slow in your own progress? And so we're really pushing ourselves. We have a value. We talk about sort of running to criticism, this idea that we're willing to challenge each other and push for new ideas, and hopefully, next generation of everything that we do is better and better. But those are some of the things we try to manage all the time. And then lastly, it's great to attract wonderful people to the organization. We had almost 28,000 resumes, applications submitted this year, but once we get them, we need to keep them, and we need to keep them in very dynamic work roles and things where they feel recognized. And so that's a constant challenge that everyone has a fabulous experience. Just like the first 5 employees, I want the 1,000th employee to feel like this is an extraordinary place to work.
So what do you look for when you're looking over those resumes? What stands out to you, to candidates, that you might say to yourself, we need to hire that person? And then how do you retain that talent to stick around for a long time?
Yeah. Number one is core values. So we want people who are very values driven, who treat people with respect, who have very high standards for the way that they do things. Resiliency, so people have had challenges and have overcome them and worked through difficult times. Leadership, we look for examples where people have really taken on a problem and led an organization through that. And then obviously specific knowledge. A lot of what we do requires deep knowledge in Medicare Advantage or cardiology or something like that. And so we'll obviously make sure people have those skills. But by far, the tie to our values and people who really believe in the mission of what we're doing becomes the predictive factor in whether someone's going to be a great employee at Evolent.
As you look at your own career over the years, what would you say was the most important skill or lesson that you learned along the way?
I would say focus. I worked for a few people in my past lives who constantly focused us on the 5 or 6 most important things we needed to do in the next 6 months, because in a dynamic startup organization, the list is long. There's 50 things you could be doing. It's easy to get distracted. But I think trying to send a very clear signal to the organization, this is what's important. And if we do these 5 things we're all going to be celebrating in 6 months, that becomes very unifying, clarifying. And if you get the boat rowing in the right direction, you can do some amazing things.
I'd like to thank my guest today, Frank Williams, CEO of Evolent Health. For more on today's discussion, visit WTOP.com, search Boston Bid. For WTOP, I'm Jason Fornicola.